So really excited to welcome to the fourth dimension today somebody who has studied one of the most important aspects of our lives. I think they say we spend a third of our lives doing this, but nobody really knows that much about it in terms of going about their day to day. I was just saying to him, most people go into their bed at night, go to sleep, and wake up and don't really think too much about it, but it's such an interesting, intriguing aspect of this world that we live in, and he is an expert in that field. We're pleased to welcome Dr. Dylan Selterman. Thank you so much for being with us on the program.
Thanks for having me.
So before we get into kind of the specifics of dreams, I would love to know what sparked your interest enough in dreams that you wanted to pursue that as a career, a passion. Was there a moment where you really started digging deep into this stuff?
Um, I think I've always been fascinated by dreams, even going back to childhood, just feeling like dreams were this very magical and mysterious thing. And I have just always been interested in learning about, why people have the dreams that they do and, what connection dreams have to our daily lives. So that's really what sparked my interest in doing scientific research on dreams. And I'm happy to say that it's still a passion of mine even after more than a decade of doing this research.
Wow. Well, is there something that, one specific thing that you've come across in your research or that you've been really passionate about lately that you think isn't talked about enough in the dream space that people might want to look into?
Um, well, I haven't done any research specifically on the phenomenon of lucid dreaming, but this to me is one of the topics that I'm most passionate about because I think lucid dreams can unlock a lot of really important stuff for people, especially in places where they, feel the dream might be more insightful than what they're experiencing in their waking hours. Um, so I love talking and thinking about that. I have not specifically done research on lucid dreams, although some of my research participants have reported having lucid dreams. My research has been more on the social aspects of dreams. So who appears in people's dreams, if it's, friends or significant others or family members, and what are the people saying and doing with those characters in their dreams, and what significance does that have for their interpersonal relationships, again, during their waking hours. So because I'm a social and personality psychologist by training, that's been the main focus of my research on dreams, is the social aspect of dreaming.
Well, I want to get to kind of all of that, but since you brought up lucid dreaming, I think that's one aspect that's so interesting. And in one of our other episodes, actually, somebody mentioned having out of body experiences, and I know a lot of people have kind of compared the two. Some people think when you're lucid dreaming, you're actually having an out of body experience. What do you think? I know you said you haven't dug too deep into it, but what do you think is happening during that phenomenon?
During lucid dreams.
Yeah.
Um, well, for my understanding about the science of lucid dreams is that there's not one specific type of experience that people have when they're in a lucid dream. It's simply the awareness that you are dreaming and then operating with greater control over what's in your dream and your own behaviors. And that it's to me kind of just a more liberated form of what otherwise would be normal dreaming for people. I'm not sure, because I know that there's a separate research on out of body experiences, at least in psychology, but I'm really not familiar with that line of research, so I can't speak to any possible similarities between that and lucid dreaming. But it is an interesting idea. I'd be curious to know if there are any studies about that.
Yeah, no, it's super interesting. And in terms of your participants, did they say, were there any similarities in their before bed routine or things that they were thinking about before sleep while they were lucid dreaming that kind of put them in that state?
I can't speak to that, because I think for vast majority of my participants in research did not report having lucid dreams. It was only a few, which kind of mirrors the general population. So I don't know if there was any type of routine that my participants were in that kind of spawned their lucid dreams relative to the other participants. But from other studies, we know that there are correlates of lucid dreaming, and those include things like mindfulness meditation, and generally speaking, having a good memory for dreams and recording your dreams. And also, as discovered by Steve LaBerge's research, this idea of mnemonic devices as a way to trigger lucidity has been one of the most well-documented correlates of lucid dreaming. So that's what we know from the general research. I can't speak to anything in my own research that would further illuminate that.
It's a really interesting topic, but I do want to back up and slowly get into what you found. But just for people who aren't necessarily even thinking about this, what is a dream at the most basic level?
Any type of cognitive or emotional mental process while you're asleep is considered a dream. So just in the sense that it would be difficult to describe, like come up with a specific definition for thought while we're awake, because that can encompass so many different things. I guess any psychological process while you're awake would fit that definition, and by that same logic, any psychological experience you have while sleeping could be considered a dream. Now, there's different types of dreams depending on sleep variables, like whether you're in rapid eye movement sleep or non-rapid eye movement sleep. And rapid eye movement dreams tend to be more movie-like. There's more of a story, and there's in-depth emotional experiences and characters. Non-rapid eye movement dreams tend to be more like photographs or images, colors, shapes, that kind of thing. So given that, I think, the what is a dream question is a kind of interesting one. For now, I guess the broadest definition needs to be the definition that we're operating from.
It's interesting that you mentioned, different, like the shapes and colors. And one thing that's fascinating to me is that different people report having different kinds of dreams. And,
right.
and so, like, is there something that is internally within us that allows us to experience all of those kinds from what you know? Or are some people only able to dream in color? Some people are able to dream with third person versus first person. Like what kind of sparks the differences in those?
So there's two parts to your question. One is, are there meaningful, personality traits that predict the kinds of dreams people have? And the answer is, yeah, there's a lot that we know about personality traits like openness to experiences and peripheral vision, those kind of visuospatial abilities. For example, athletes tend to have more vivid dreams. Creative folks like artists and painters, photographers tend to have more vivid dreams as well. So those kind of personality traits, be they cognitive skills, good sleep hygiene, that predicts the types of dreams people normally have. The second part of your question, which is, I think, kind of forming a taxonomy of people, like some folks have this type of dream and some folks have this other type of dream, that I'm not sure we have evidence for. I think anyone can potentially have any type of dream, at least, for folks who have, in the normative range of psychological experiences in general. Like, obviously, this doesn't apply if we're talking about, clinical variables or psychopathology. So that, I would say represents a limitation. I'm gonna need to pause for 1 second because there's a knock at my door. So yeah, I'll be right back.
Sure. At least nobody was robbing your place.
Nope.
That would be wild that they wouldn't know, though. We would have it recorded.
All right.
um, but
Anyway,
but basically, you're saying like it's hard to know exactly what makes one person dream a certain way versus another. But is there something versus like, do most people dream in third person or first person? I honestly don't even remember what I usually dream in, now that I'm thinking about it. But
well, for some people, it could be a mix of both. Like I've had both in the same dream. Like for parts of it, I'm, in first person, but then it kind of zooms out and I'm in third person. And I would assume that a lot of other folks probably have that same type of experience in their dreams. So that's why I don't think we have evidence yet that there's different types of dreamers, because you can probably have more than one in the same dream, even, or you have some that are first and some that are third, depending on the day.
what about recurring dreams? That's another thing that I think a lot of people are interested in. Is there
Yeah.
something? Do most people have recurring dreams, and do you believe there's usually a message within those? Or, like our other partner on the show, Katriece, she was saying that she's had a recurring dream spaces for her whole life, but depending on where she's at in her life, the dream plot kind of changes, and her reaction to things change. And I know personally, I have like 4 or 5 settings that throughout my life I've had consistently, and when I remember them before bed, then I'll have actually more vivid dreams, or probably close to lucid dreams if I think about those specific spaces.
Right. So they're very common. Many people report having recurring dreams, and kind of, what you're alluding to is there's not a specific thing necessarily that unites those. So for some folks, it could be that they are having a recurring dream about a specific person, like a specific dream character. Or for some people, like your colleague, it could be a specific location or place that they keep dreaming about over and over again. Um, a lot of folks also report, and I've experienced this as well, recurring dreams that are cyclical. So some folks will have the kind of back to school anxiety dreams in the late summer, but not at other points throughout the year. And for me personally, I have dreams about going to the beach, usually in April when the weather starts to get warmer. And my mind is kind of cueing me, okay, this is coming up. This is, get ready for this in the summertime. So it doesn't necessarily mean there's a message there every time for all people. It could be that it's part of the pattern of your life and your routine, and something might spontaneously cause you to reflect on that in the context of daily life, and then it appears in your dream.
That's also your cat.
My cat's here too. Yeah.
My cat does that too, where they don't want to let you sit in the chair. My cat actually will sit on the side and then slowly push me off the chair.
Right.
But I think the recurring dreams is super interesting. I know you do a lot of specialization in terms of what dreams mean in regards to your everyday life and the people within it and the relationships that you have, without being too personal on it, because I know so many people's dreams are very specific to their own lives. But are there certain messages within dreams or certain scenarios that play out that are common threads that people might be able to take something away from if they see something happen, or if they react a certain way, they might be feeling a certain way towards someone in their life?
Short answer, no, because I think when we have dreams about other people that we're intimate with, again, romantic partners, friends, family members, the content and the experiences in those dreams will probably be a reflection of the idiosyncratic experiences that people have in those relationships while they're awake. And so if you have a dream, let's say about, a specific person, and the nature of that, relationship is positive and the dream content is positive, then it's probably a reflection of that. And if the relationship is difficult or negative or painful, and the dream reflects that, it's kind of just mirroring that experience. So I don't know that there's a specific message or theme in the content of people's dreams that people should take away from those dreams. I think if anything, we, need more research into the types of dreams that people have to see if there are any common themes. It's like, okay, if this appears in your dream, then, here's the message you should take home for it. Right now, the science has just not gotten up to
Yeah.
that point.
Well, there's things that it's weird, like even on a personal level, there's things where I know sometimes it's an important dream, but there's sometimes where I know that it kind of just comes from my day-to-day life. And I was talking about this person, I was listening to this song, that's why this was in my dream, whatever.
Right.
And there's sometimes, like the other night, there was specifically this baby octopus that was crawling up me. And I remember laying down and being like, I shouldn't be afraid of it. This octopus, I should embrace it. And it was like crawling up my chest. And then I woke up as this little vivid purple baby octopus came up to my mouth. And it's like, that to me is like those ones I feel like some kind of message is supposed to come from it, but I'm not sure what it means ever.
Yeah, it's yeah. It would be nice if there was some kind of code book that we could just look up. Oh, I dreamt about a purple octopus. Like, what does that mean? And then it clearly means something for everybody, or
Yeah.
for anyone who's gone scuba diving and has that dream, then like, here's what that means.
Yeah.
Yeah, we don't know. And the other thing about dreams that makes it even more difficult to pinpoint those specific meanings is that some aspect of what we're doing while we're asleep is filtering information and kind of consolidating and making connections, but then also breaking connections. Like, your mind is trying to work through what is important and what can be discarded. And that process is still not something we have a perfect understanding about. And that might explain some of the randomness of dreams. Because if most of your dream reflects, what you would otherwise experience while you're awake, but then this like purple octopus appears,
Yeah.
that could be part of the thing that your brain is saying, we can disregard this. Or maybe not. Maybe it's saying this is, the thing that is important that we need to keep and pay
Yeah.
attention to. It's probably the case, although again, this is a little bit speculative. It's probably the case that when we have, these very vivid, emotional, intense dreams, that those are things that our mind wants to call more attention to and wants to kind of prioritize as more importance. But there could be like, 5% of that really vivid, intense stuff that just isn't meaningful.
Yeah.
And we do not yet have the capacity to distinguish between those things. All we know is that during sleep, we're doing a lot of work, and the work is centered around, figuring out what's important and what's not. And our emotions are a big part of that. And that's why we have so many dreams about the things we experience normally while we're awake and the people we interact with while we're awake, but it may not all be meaningful.
Yeah. And it's weird because it's like it really is just this filtering of your subconscious. It seems like you're like, and it seems if you're able to lucid dream or able to kind of snap into that mode where you realize you're dreaming, that you would be able to do a lot of like deep subconscious work that you would only otherwise be able to access through therapy or meditation or something. So it seems like a really interesting opportunity to go deep within yourself, but it's weird that we don't access it more as humans in general.
Yeah, and I think a lot of that, what you're describing, is cultural. Like, Americans specifically don't really value sleep and dreams the
Mm.
way other cultures do. And I think that's not to say that Americans aren't necessarily interested in dreams. We just don't set up our lives to, really like have them as a central focus. Like, we don't talk about them a lot, and we don't necessarily enable people to have like quality sleep and to have a full awareness and understanding of their dreams. So I think other cultures may do a better job of that, especially cultures where people get enough sleep and we don't in America. So we're kind of weird about that.
That is strange to think about. I never even thought about like how other cultures probably see it differently and value it more. One other thing that I'm just curious about that we may never find the answer about, but I'd be curious to know your thoughts, or if you've come across anyone who talks about it. But the thought that the dream space is actually some other dimension, or we're able to access another dimension through sleep. Like I know there's probably not very much research that could even back that up, but does anyone talk about that within the space that you know about?
Yeah, that's a very like Jungian idea. Carl Jung coined this idea of the collective subconscious, and yeah, I mean, there's no science there. That's the bottom line. There's no evidence in support of that idea. Um, it is kind of fun to think about, and perhaps at some point in the future, scientific research will discover some you know way in which our dreams are operating that is beyond what we thought was possible. um, yeah, I mean, that's pretty much where we are at this point. It's science fiction.
Side, yeah. Well, I don't know. I don't know what I believe about it. I know it's something more. Like there's something to it, and what is there any science to? Okay, this is one that I just thought of. When people say if you dream about someone, that person was thinking about you. Have you ever? Has there ever been anything recorded about that?
Well, the thing is, there's really no way to falsify that, because it could be that if we're dreaming about the people that we know and love a lot, and those people are thinking about us a lot, then it was not like some kind of metaphysical connection. It was just, oh, we have dreams about this person and they're also thinking about us. Like that's the simple explanation for it. It's just you have a tie to that person in your life, and then the dream is just a reflection of that. So that would be the simplest explanation for it. I don't think there's anything metaphysical going on, basically.
It's just, in your opinion, it's just likely that if you're
Yeah.
close. The ones where I find is weird is if it's random. Like if it's somebody who I don't associate with and don't think about very often, and then I'll be like, I dreamt about you, and then they'll be like, oh, I was thinking about you the other day, or like that.
Right.
So it, again, could be
Right.
coincidence, could be more. But in
Well,
terms,
I wouldn't say coincidence. I would just say it's explained by other things. Like if there's, you know, a friend that you haven't spoken to in a while, and you and this other person just saw like something on TV that was playing at the same time, and that made you, think of each other or dream about each other, then that's the explanation. So it's more, so I wouldn't say it's a coincidence or random. I would say it's meaningful only in the sense that there's something clear in your lives that brings you together, and then that manifests itself while we're awake and also when we're
dream. Yeah, it's almost like the trigger that you both
dreaming.
thought. My favorite movie of all time is Inception, uh, and I think like it's really interesting because of the layers within it, right? They can go through different dreams and go through people's minds.
Right.
But was there anything that watching that movie and studying dreams that stood out as an actual truth from that movie that also happens in real life?
Sure. So you can definitely have dreams within dreams. That is, that is a thing. Sometimes they're referred to as false awakenings. I've had them. You have a dream and then you wake up into another dream. So that can happen as well.
Oh.
And you can also intentionally move yourself into a dream. Like while you're awake, you can say, I'm intending to have this dream, and then have that dream when you go to sleep. I've done that too. So you can have that control over it, and you can have layers of dreams. the science fiction part involves people entering the same dream space at the same dream time. That's science fiction. And I think, it's been a while since I've seen that movie, but I think they have some kind of like chemicals or machines set up to
Yeah.
like facilitate that process. So again, that's science fiction.
But I didn't know that about both of those things. I think are really interesting. What's your experience just personally been with um, waking up from a dream, thinking you woke up, and then you're still in the dream?
Um, I mean, it's, sometimes I'll just wake up and it'll be like I'm waking up in my life. So I'll just dream that my alarm clock goes off and that I'm waking up and I go to the bathroom and wash up and eat breakfast, and then I wake up for real and I'm like, oh, okay, that was just a dream. I mean, I don't get them that
Yeah.
frequently. They happen once in a while, and sometimes it's a little bit more like I'll wake up and in my dream, I'll wake up and I'll be in like my parents' house or something, and I'll be like, "Oh, I'm here. Like this is where I am now." And then I'll wake up for real, and I'll be at my actual apartment. So, um, yeah, they're, for me at least, pretty mundane.
Well, actually, now that you mention it, I am starting to think back on dreams that they weren't, like you said, they weren't necessarily that memorable, but there were times where I thought I was waking up, and then I would go through the day and something would happen, and then when I wake up, I would be really worried that I did something stupid, or like that whatever bad thing happened in the dream like happened in real life, and I'd wake up with the fear of, oh shoot, like it's the next day, like what did I do? But so that stuff's
Uh,
super weird. But the second part that you mentioned, so in order to, like you said, you basically you can create your own dream and facilitate it in a similar aspect. So what is
yes.
that? What would you have to do in order to do that? Like, what are the steps to create your dream?
Boy. I mean, I think for the people who can really do this like on command, the dream yogis, they're spending so much of their day, just all day every day, being mindful of their surroundings and practicing meditation and trying to facilitate lucidity by just doing kind of mnemonic checks and sleep checks, that kind of thing.
Yeah, and like
So
your frequencies and stuff.
I'm sorry.
Are there like just certain frequencies that facilitate that too?
Frequencies? I'm
Yeah,
not sure what you mean.
like in terms of do you listen to certain things in headphones or play certain types of music or
No, I think it's more just an internal kind of structuring, and intending to go back into that dream space. Um, it's it requires a level of intentionality and patience to do, and it's not something that's common. It's much more common in folks who are just immersing themselves in concentration all the time. And again, in our weird culture, we're not really doing that. So it's
yeah.
it's tougher. It's tougher for us to do that.
Well, I'm glad to hear that because this is for this podcast specifically. We talk a lot about meditation, and I know a lot of our audience is really like intrigued by meditation and going within.
Yeah.
So I'm sure there's someone out there listening right now who is like, you know what, I'm going to make it my goal to be able to, practice this and create my own dreams. So if
Yeah.
you're listening right
Dr-
now, good luck.
dreams are the yoga of sleep.
I like that. What do you mean by that though? Explain that because I like that.
I mean, if yoga is meant to be this, um, this practice as a way of facilitating discipline and concentration and well-being, the dream space is kind of like that within your sleep. You're, you know, you're training your mind essentially to be more present focused in that space while you're asleep. And for the folks who are spending a lot of their time, if not all of their time, in meditative practice. They're essentially doing dream yoga. They're practicing that kind of mindfulness while they're asleep. So there's a lot of parallels there.
Yeah, I think that's a perfect place to end, because I think that kind of brings everything together. But before we get out of here, is there anything else that you've been working on or studying, or that you've been teaching, that you just find fascinating, that you think people might be interested in?
Well, if folks are interested in participating in a study on dreams that I'm running now, they're welcome to, and I'll send you that information.
Yeah,
Maybe you can put it in your show notes.
yeah.
Um, I encourage anyone who's over 18 and is interested in participating to do so. It's a 2-part study that it just involves a survey. So part one will ask you about a recent dream that you've had and attitudes toward dreams and emotional experiences. And then a week later, you'll get a follow-up email for the next survey. And that concludes the study. And you can, for participation, you'll be entered into a raffle to win a small gift card, but a little token of appreciation there.
Nice. Well, that's perfect. Yeah. So if you're listening, the link will be in the bio on YouTube and on the podcast. And I'm definitely going to sign up for that too. So excited.
All right. Appreciate it.
All right. Well, thank you so much for your time and insight. And if there's ever anything else you need on this end, always happy to help.
All right. You're very welcome.
All right. Have
Take
a good
care.
day.